Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Sasquatch Secrets. I'm your host, Nikki Colon, and I'm so glad you guys could be here today. We have got an oldie but a goodie today, do we not? The Ruby Creek incident. And I know a lot of people have talked about this and have done their own little shows, but I haven't. So it's time to do that, right? And it's good to see that chat is just a moving. And I'll say hi to you all in just a sec, but I want to go ahead and bring my guests on. Of course, we have Mr. Thomas Steenburg in the House of Secrets. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Nikki. I'm doing just fine. How are you been?
Good. Not too cold up there yet?
No, a lot of rain, and I hope it stays this way because you don't have to
Oh.
shovel rain.
Right, exactly. And that's good. And next. Gerry Matthews, the Bukwas Crew. How are you, Gerry?
I am doing fine, Nikki. Thank you for the invite. I like that little meme or whatever you got there. I wouldn't mind going fishing, but Thomas was incorrect. He said it was raining. Yes, we rained snow all day yesterday into the night. So it's only now melted overnight. So
Now,
yeah. But thank you
I-
for the invite, Nikki. It's an interesting subject you picked tonight.
Yeah, we have to do it. I have to do it. I have to have it part of my historic series, and eventually I'll get around to all of those good ones. We're getting there, but anyway, let's bring this up and shuffle us around a little bit. Did I make you dizzy? Hold on. So, the Ruby Creek incident. I was going to say hi to everybody before we got started because I don't think I could go all the way back there. But Uncle Bones, it's so good to see you. Just Steve, hello. Rabbit, good to see you. I hope you got your wood burn. Give me a thumbs up if it came because I don't know. I didn't check. I've been so busy. Brian and Chewy, it is so good to see you. Danny Staten, as always, and Sandra Piper. Hi, dear. I hope you're doing well. Trackway in the house. Sharon and Rapmaster, good to see you again. Who else? Robert, good to see you. Mark from Down Under. Good to see you guys. If I miss you, I am sorry. But welcome to the show. So, Merry Christmas to all. I know the time is just going by so fast. I still haven't decorated because I was too busy this week. But for sure, I'm going to start tomorrow.
I think it's time I threw my jack-o'-lantern out.
You're a little behind there. A little bit behind. Just a little bit. So,
Thomas, did you lower your ears or raise your forehead? I don't know. I think you're on a different angle tonight. I can see your face for the first time in years.
No, I lowered the camera a little bit, but that's about as low as I can get it on this setup. It's my fault. I have a bad habit of leaning on my desk on my elbows here when I'm talking. So, like I'm doing right now. So, but I take it off, I'm back to normal.
I definitely do that too. I lean forward, and then I mess up my camera. Everybody knows that. So, Ruby Creek, this happened in 1941, September. And accounts were taken by Ivan T. Sanderson, John Green. Was there anybody else who put out or went? Renee DeHinden also went out to the site. Now, did Renee and John Green go out together, or was it two separate?
Okay, this is one of British Columbia's classic tales. It's one of the Sasquatch classics. And it's been gone over a lot by most people well after the fact. And you got to remember, in September of 1941, to give you an idea of the time span, Canada's been at war with Germany for 2 years. The United States is about to be flung into the war. Because at the time this happened, the Japanese fleet was just leaving Japan, or getting ready to leave Japan for a little vacation in Hawaii, as so young at the time. Now, when this happened, the only people who covered it at the time was the media and a few outrageous, rather silly written stories, you know, huge bear terrorizes Indians at Ruby Creek, that kind of thing. And it was at the same time a bunch of First Nations people came down from the north end of Harrison Lake claiming that they were being terrorized by a Sasquatch. And there was a lot of stories in the press at this time about a creature seen in around the Harrison Lake area and Ruby Creek, which had the local name Big Blondie. Okay. And if you look at Mrs. Chapman's description of this creature, it probably was that same animal due to its hair color. What happened, and this is how the story goes, we don't know the exact date, but I think it was the 21st of September 1941. Okay, no one ever wrote the exact date down, but that was roughly right around there. Okay, Mrs. Chapman was washing dishes. They had 3 kids at the time, and one of the kids came in and said, "Mom, there's a strange cow coming out of the woods." And Mrs. Chapman looked out and she saw this thing moving in the tree line, the opposite end of the open field, across where the trees and the line of trees between the railway line and the property. Remember, this was basically a cabin. It's a very small house. It only had a couple rooms in it and a lean-to to the side where they kept barrels of salted salmon and other things. And what she saw coming out of the woods was not a cow, but a teak-colored, hair-covered man-like thing covered in head to foot with teak-colored hair. She literally described it as the hair color is similar to a boat oar. And that's how she described it, though the skin was black, and it seemed to be coming straight towards the house. So Mrs. Chapman gathered up the children, covered them with a blanket, and went out the back end of the house towards the river. And she went along the riverbank towards up through where the cemetery was in those days, and up through the cemetery on one of the little trails up to the railway line that way. And she went running down the railway tracks, where she ran into a guy named Tiffany and his crew working on the tracks. All he remembers is Mrs. Chapman running down the tracks with the children saying, "Help us, help us. Sasquatch is after us." So he decided, with the 2 men who was with him, to go check the situation out. And they had one of those old-fashioned hand-pumped cars to do work on the line. And they went up and crossed the field to the house. They never saw the animal, but they did see its footprints where it had crossed her potato patch, and even apparently was heavy enough that it crushed some of the potatoes in the ground. And we could see where the track circled the house. At one point, it almost seemed like it tried to go through the door and enter the house. They don't know if it actually entered the house or not, but it did enter the lean-to on the side of the house, and it peeled open one of those wooden barrels of salted salmon. Now, they assume, this is all of them assuming, that it may have tried to sample the salted salmon, didn't like the taste, and it spilt the contents of that barrel out all over the place and threw the barrel away. Then the track line led down to the riverbank, but unlike the Chapmans, it came back and went back across the field again the way it had come, through the trees, crossed the railway fence, crossed the tracks, and disappeared into the mountains. And that's where they lost sight of it. Now, this extensive file I have on the case, the men who went to investigate was Guston Tiffany, a fellow named Foley, first name unknown, and a French-Canadian fellow named Raoul G. Crozon, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Uh-huh.
They are the three men that went to investigate and see what was going on. Now, the Chapmans at the time had 3 children. They had a boy 9 years of age, another boy 7 years of age, and a girl 5 years of age. And one of the saddest things about this case, all 3 of these children in the years afterwards all died of various things. Measles, tuberculosis, different things. Okay.
Drowned.
But they had other children after that. It was thought for the longest time, thanks to what Ivan T. Sanderson wrote in his book on the case, which is one of the most detailed written accounts of the Ruby Creek incident. Ivan T. Sanderson said their second batch of kids died with the Chapmans 2 weeks after he talked to them when they all drowned in the river in a boating accident. But that, I have discovered since then, is not true. Not all the children were on the boat. Not all of them died. And I've met a man twice now who claims to be one of the Chapman's children, and I believe him. Okay.
So how many in total children did they have? Because that was what was confusing, is that you keep reading about, well, now, you know, there's 2 kids that died drowned, that they were drowned in the boating accident.
As far as I know, the 3 children they had at the time of the incident all died. And later on, they had at least 3 or 4 more children. Remember, this is the 1940s, and she was basically a baby machine. Mrs. Chapman. She was having children all the time. Right.
Right.
A lot for George. Now, Mr. George Chapman, after the 3 men had left, returned home, was quite upset to find his family gone, these big footprints all around. And he went back and he found his wife and kids back in the reserve, which was just less than half a mile down from where this property is, and got the whole story. Now, if you go by what Ivan T. Sanderson wrote and John Green wrote in his book on Track of the Sasquatch, 69, and later on in the Sasquatch Apes Among Us, you get the impression that the Chapmans abandoned the house right after this happened. That's not entirely true. They stayed another week.
Okay.
But something kept coming back, making large, piercing, screaming noises at night. They never saw it again.
Mm-hmm.
But they think it kept coming back. And after a week of that, Mrs. Chapman had had enough. And the family left the house. However, other Chapman relatives moved into the house and continue to use it. Now, what really caused the house to be abandoned was the last great flood of the Fraser River in 1948, when this property was about 4.5 to 5 feet underwater.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So that is what caused the house to be abandoned. and after that, and the waters receded, it slowly deteriorated in time. And by the time John Green and Rennie DeHinden came to look at it in the late 1957, to be exact, it was basically just a shell.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no trace of it today. You won't even find a rusty nail out there. Okay. Now, John Green and Rennie DeHinden were not the first to look into this case. At the time it happened, a retired deputy sheriff from Bellingham, Washington, who we know is named Joseph Dunn. We don't know anything about Joseph Dunn, but technically he predates John Green, Rennie DeHinden, and everybody else. We don't even know why he had an interest in the subject, but he heard about the story in the press, and he came up to Ruby Creek to investigate. He was a retired, so he was in his late 60s. He died in 1949. Okay. He came up and investigated, and he actually cast one of the tracks. We don't even know why he was interested, but I do have a lot in the file here. A lot of people don't have. Yeah, I have his death certificate here.
Wow.
Yeah, he was birth date unknown. Death December 23rd, 1949. He's buried there. And I have a number of letters he wrote after he did this investigation. He was writing quite extensively to a Miss Erna Gunther, who worked at the University Anthropology Department at the University of Washington. Here, one letter dated October 30th, 1941. He writes to Mrs. Gunther, vainly seeking some information at the library here regarding the Sasquatch. So they're using the Canadian term Sasquatch, which is well known by then. Remember, this is 19 years before the term Bigfoot was even coined. The library reference librarian referred me to you. Is the Sasquatch man or beast? If latter, what specifics, etc.? What sort of track does it make? Position of toes, etc. Are there any pictures of it on record? What are its habits? Is it gregarious? What is its appearance? Does it travel on all fours or act like a man? Any information you may give me will be greatly appreciated. I wish permission to use such information in an article. Yours truly, Joseph Dunn. Joseph H. Dunn, 123 Forest Avenue, Bellingham, Washington. Well, I think Mrs. Gunther was rather annoyed at this fellow asking him about legends and monsters. So she replied on November 12th, 1941, Mr. Joseph Dunn, my dear Mr. Dunn, if you will be kind enough to tell me in what connection you first heard of the Sasquatch in brackets, it might help me in trying to run it down for you. It sounds to me suspiciously like one of those mythological animals are Salish, but I would like more information. Cordially yours, Andrew Gunther. Okay.
She was not going to do it.
Yeah. And Mr. Dunn was rather taken aback by that, so he wrote a very long scathing letter. Basically, well, I won't read the whole thing here, but no doubt you are a New Englander, for you have the Yankees trait of answering a question by asking one. And he goes on that the word Sasquatch is a kind word said to represent a tribe of legend. You know, there you go, and that's what Joseph Dunn replied. To which she later replied, Dear Mr. Dunn, in the mythology, particularly every Indian tribe in this region, there are stories about giants. These giants always live in the mountains and these remote areas which are not familiar to people concerned. There's a homeless tall and savages living in the underground houses. These beings were built like giants. They were called, pronounced gibberish, he writes in brackets. I believe this myth may be particularly colored by the imagination of your Indian woman. Yeah. So basically, they were going back and forth like that.
Wow.
But who was Joseph Dunn? We don't know why he was even interested in the subject in the first place. And unfortunately, he passed away in 1949. I do have a letter from some of his relatives when they were contacted by John Green back in the day. And that's where John Green found out that the family had kept the casting Mr. Dunn had made of the Ruby Creek track. They had used it as a doorstop for about 8 years and got rid of it when it broke. Yeah.
Well, you know, at that time, they had no idea what significance that would have, you know, later on. And the sketch you see before you right now was said to have been traced by Joe Dunn, according to what he saw. You know, so and I think it's a good time to actually share a little piece of the movie Man or Beast, which has the recollection of John Green and Tifting and what they saw. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll bring that up. There we go. Turn that up.
There had been several such reported sightings, which had been reported in small local newspapers. Mr. John Green, publisher of a newspaper at Harrison Hot Springs, British Columbia, began investigating some of these sightings. Here is John Green to report on a sighting he investigated in 1957.
When I first came here in 1957, it was still pretty well open. But all this has grown up since then. So what happened at that time was that Mrs. George Chapman lived in a house down by the river behind me here. She was in the house and the children were outside. One of them came in and told her that there was a cow coming out of the woods. So she looked out and she saw this man-like thing, but about 8 feet tall and completely covered with hair like a bear. And she knew it to be a Sasquatch. This was quite a well-known thing to the Indian people. And she was frightened, so she took the children, ran down to the river, and then through the graveyard, which is right behind me here. And came out just about here onto the track, and then ran on down to Ruby Creek. Now, she'd really only had one quick look at the thing. So it wouldn't be that convincing a story, except that a lot of people immediately went back there and saw these enormous tracks. Mr. Tifting, of course, was one of them, and can describe just what the tracks were like and what they did.
Well, he came through the bush into the shed or the lean-to of the house, and there was a barrel of dried fish with smoked salmon rather. And he broke the barrel, and there was some fish eaten there and thrown around. And then he went down the river bank and apparently took a drink and then come back up on the other side of the house, through the garden patch and up to sepia fence and stepped with 1 foot on that side of the fence and 1 foot on this side of the fence. I can walk right over it. And the footprints was about 18 inches, like. And then he went across there and over to the next fence there and went right up the hillside.
So, there you have it, straight from Tifting and John Green.
This is Mr. Tifting's sworn affidavit that was sworn to under what he saw that day.
Mm-hmm.
Declared before the Agency in the province of British Columbia on the 17th day of July 1957. So that's his sworn affidavit, the man you see on the screen there, about what he saw that day. John Green, in the early years of investigation, always tried to get people to make sworn affidavits, which gives it a bit of legal punch at the time.
Right.
Because it was
and you find that in his account, he states that he puts them in front of the magistrate to do their.
Yeah, but in latter years, he reneged on that, didn't he? He came out and said it's basically a waste of time having people sign those documents. As far as the courts and everything is concerned, about somebody is ringing, and I don't know who. I wanted to ask you, Thomas, Tifting said that the critter left the cabin and then went down to the creek and had a drink, then turned around and came back again. Now, how does he know that the critter went down and had a drink and then returned to the cabin again?
No, they don't know. They were
just speculating on the fact that it ate salted fish.
Yeah.
So probably it went down.
What they saw were the prints and the salted fish all over the ground, and the empty barrel sitting there on its side.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the tracks went down to the riverbank, and they assumed it went down there. Hang on.
Whoever's calling him, stop.
I remember we were talking on a show one night and we happened to mention Thomas's name and the phone started ringing and ringing and ringing, interrupting the show. And he finally realized he was trying to get a hold of me, and it was coming up on the show. So,
Sorry about that. That's somebody that's somebody who wanted to tell me about something they saw 20 so years ago. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, a hot one. Woo.
Ooh.
Get into Squatchmobile. Oh, that.
Not for something that happened 20 years ago, no.
Or
I don't think it'd been
whoop,
yeah.
more appropriately.
Yeah. But at the time this all happened, that they were assuming a lot of things, just judging by the pathway of the tracks, and they seemed to circle the house. And at one point, they thought it might have tried to get into the house, but they don't know if it did or not. Okay.
Wait, what? Somebody just left this. One Feather says, "This is so awesome. I am the oldest Chapman grandchild, almost 70."
One Feather. Is any of the direct children of your grandparents still alive?
Go ahead and you never know. Could be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty awesome. That's pretty neat.
See, the original story, and I think it's mostly due to what Ivan T. Sanderson wrote, was that all the children they had after the three died with them in the boating accident, and that's why we thought for decades. And then I was approached by a man at one of the Sasquatch displays I was doing, who said he was a George and Jenny Chapman were his parents. Maybe it's Miss One Feather's father I'm talking about here, and said they did not die in the boat. Only the parents did.
Oh.
Yeah. So what everyone believed about the second batch of kids dying in a boating accident with the parents didn't happen. Yeah.
Well,
but
there you go.
unfortunately, George and Jenny Chapman were tragically drowned in the Fraser River about 2 weeks after they talked to Ivan T. Sanderson. Yeah.
Maybe
2 weeks.
maybe
That's fast.
Yeah.
Maybe One Feather might be interested in coming on and talking. He doesn't have to come on with camera. He can just do voice if he wants.
Mm-hmm.
If you're interested, just that's true. I haven't vetted One Feather, so I don't know you are who you say you are.
True enough.
But if you want to come on, we'll give it a go. Just let me know, and I'll throw you a link in the chat. If you have any information that can help us with determining whether which children actually survived, or anything like that, just let me know. Invite.
Yeah. But all three children that they actually had at the time of the incident, they all died of various things, like measles. I think the girl died of tuberculosis, but I'm not sure. Infant mortality and child mortality was quite a lot more common back then. So
yeah. Go ahead.
The people who own the house now, they're not related in any way to the Chapmans, are they? Or they're not part of the Staheless band?
They're not part of the Staheless band. They're part of the band in the Ruby Creek region. I can't remember how you pronounce their name. There's something like 60 letters in it.
Well, that's a short one.
I can't begin to pronounce it, but it's a small reserve right around Ruby Creek. Yeah, but they're not the Staheless. They're not the Staheless band that's in around the south end of the Lake Harris.
Yeah. Okay, I was just trying to remember now. The band down at Harrison Bay. Maybe it's them. I'll have to look into that. That's very curious. Yeah.
Okay, so Michael the Howler has said that he has met One Feather and can verify that he was told that a long time ago. So really, drop the link in the chat. One Feather, if you want to come and join us and get questioned a little bit about your family, you are welcome to hit that link, follow the instructions. If you have a pair of headsets, that's better. But if not, that's fine. You can get on straight with your phone. Just follow the instructions, and I'll let you on to the podcast. You don't have to have your camera on if you don't want.
How about that, Thomas? He's asking a question. Donald asked want to know if there's been any further incidents around the house.
Well, the house doesn't exist anymore. It's completely gone. There's a new house that built by a friend of mine who I know, and he's a good friend. And whenever anybody wants to come down and have a look at the Chapman site, I usually give them a call and ask. They're now retired, and part of the property has been been changed into a mobile home park.
Yeah.
Fortunately, not the half of the property where the tree was. Yeah.
On this, you could see the mobile homes there.
Yeah. There's now about 8 of them there, so there's been a few more homes added since that was done. Yeah.
Let's see.
I won't mention his name because I don't think he wants his name published or anything like that. So.
But he's very good about it. If he thinks you're a sincere person, he will, answer your questions if he has time. And, he won't say, hey, get off my property kind of thing. He's,
So these are photos that you took on your 2011. Is that what you said?
No, I took those. That particular photo I took in 2010. And you can see the new house on the other side. By the way, to show you how fast trees grow, you can't really see it, but you see that bushy tree in front of the two trees. There's a tree that's hidden by the bushes that was only like 3 feet tall. It's now even taller than the one on the left. So,
oh wow!
Yeah, things grow fast in British Columbia. I'll tell you. Yeah.
Wow.
And that is George Chapman's shovel.
Sticking out the tree.
Yeah, see, both these trees are Siamese twin trees, like one trunk and 2 stems coming out, right? So you basically have 2 trees growing out of one trunk, and you got 2 of them side by side. That's very, very rare. That's how we know they're the same trees. Now, Mr. Chapman had that shovel just shoved into the V where the 2 stems join the trunk, and he just left it there. And as the decades went by, the trees grew around the shovel, and what was only 4 feet off the ground is now 15 feet off the ground. It's going up with the trees.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would join, but I'm on tramp line right now. Let's stay in touch. Sounds good. Glad you're here. He's on a trap line right now, so.
The whole Ruby Creek area is a gorgeous place. Even where he has his home down by the railway tracks and the river. And if you go north on the other side of Highway 7 up into the hills, it's even more beautiful. It connects with a bunch of other creeks that will take you all the way to Bear Creek at Harrison Lake, halfway up to Harrison Lake.
And since there has not been another Sasquatch encounter on the property, but all around it, there are other reports.
As you might recall, Thomas, back in 2009, I believe it was, I came back from Harrison Hot Spring. I got an email from this guy here in Chilliwack who was a hunter and who said he had something throw a rock at him.
Yeah.
And he wanted me to come out. He wanted me to come out and look at it. And I just got in through the door from Harrison Hot Spring. And I said, well, Bill Miller and Barry Blount are still over there in Hot Springs. So I phoned Bill. And him and Barry went over, and this guy was still back there at the spot now. He took a friend of his with him, so the 4 of them checked it out. And Bill thought that, this guy really has something here, And so it was getting dark, put off to the next day, and then that's what I think they got a hold of you and Barry Blount and Bill went out and checked the place out. And I was there one time with you also.
Yeah,
that's when you went along the edge of the marsh where this creature was supposedly hiding, and you found a print, but you made a cast out of. Do you have that cast there right now?
It's in the cast drawer. I'd have to dig it out.
Yeah, the cast drawer.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah that was in 2008. Yeah, and that's
2008.
Yeah, that's up Ruby Creek Forest Service Road at the 5 kilometer point where the new power station was built.
Here's the interesting
part. And when I went there with Bill and found the track, there was a woman with us with a dog.
Yes, I know that.
Bear Blunt was not with us. And we went in there and we found the tracks. The dog destroyed one of the tracks. And the woman whose name escapes me, she fell into another one. And I told her to tie the damn dog up and managed to save the third track.
That was Christy.
Christy, yeah. And we cast that one because a rainstorm was going to hit, and we wanted to save it before it got destroyed. But there was actually a number of tracks. We cast those one right foot that seemed to be the clearest, and it was in mounds of bog debris, like layers of bog debris. So this is a track that's sunk down into layer upon layer of, dead leaves, twigs, gunk, that kind of thing. And then you and I went there after that and tried to find that rock.
Yeah.
That was thrown. We were up into our hips in the water trying to find a rock. And we found one. We found one, and it was, and I took your picture with it, and it was perfectly round like a cannonball, as I recall. And we said, "Is this the rock?" And he had an out right there, and he said, "Yeah, you found it." No, and he said, "No, you got the wrong rock, boys."
No. After being up to your waist in ice cold water.
Yeah.
I got a picture hanging on the wall right there of me holding the rock.
Yeah.
I had my waders on, hip waders.
Yeah, but that was also Nick, that was also in the Ruby Creek area, and that was in 2008 when that bear hunter.
The interesting thing is that was 2008 or something. Was it 2009 and 2000 or 2010 that the Mount Archibald had 2 sightings in one night?
That was 2008 as well.
That's right. Now here's the interesting part. All of these sightings took place within about 20 miles of each other.
Correct. They're all in the same genre, as well as the Ralph Bob sighting along Lougheed Highway in 1973, all within a couple of kilometers of the Chapman property.
Yeah.
So Trackway's asking if this is connected to the Chapman incident.
No, they're just other incidents that have happened in that area that we've looked at.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was the Cowman of Copalis Beach a spinoff of this incident?
No, I don't think so.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, well, I thought that was in California, Copalis Beach, but I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. That was on Monster Quest. Something was on Monster Quest. So the description that Mrs. Chapman says is that it was about 7.5 feet tall, and that when she tried to tell him what color it was, that she pointed to wood or something she had in the house, or
she said it was the same. It was a teak color, like a boat oar, the hair color, like a boat oar, kind of the same colors you have in your lettering on the page, rather close to that. But the skin was jet black on the face and the bottom of the hands and things like that. Yeah. And there were, like I said, at that time in 41, there was a number of stories about a Sasquatch in the area of Harrison Lake and Ruby Creek that went by the local name Big Blondie.
Big Blondie.
Sort of like a yellow top in Ontario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is also around the same time canoes of First Nations people came down from the north end of Harrison Lake, demanding that someone go up there and shoot the Sasquatch and terrorizing them all the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, too bad there's not a better report on that one with more information. That was really interesting, that story.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't the yellow hair also around the same time as the Temagami Island Bigfoot incident, kind of associated in the same area?
I don't know.
It seems
The-
to me like I associated the two together.
Timmy Tuda what incident?
Temagami Island.
Temagama Island.
That's the story of oh shoots, now I'm not going to remember the guy's name. He was running away from authorities, and he hid out there in Temagami Island area in a shack, hunter's shack, for a while, and he claims that he saw Bigfoot and recorded it next to a huge stump, but that the military or men in black came and they confiscated all his evidence and everything,
like they would,
and took all that evidence away. And then somebody else came in and made a reenactment of that footage, and people took that, trying to claim that it was the real footage, but it was just made up.
It doesn't sound like a story I would have listened to for very long anyway, Nikki, so I don't. Yeah. And it's Temagami Island in British Columbia?
Somewhere. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember. What was the other questions I had about this? I had questions about her, because people are always saying, well, it's just she said, but the one important thing was that there were people around who got to the site immediately after this happened and saw the prints or saw evidence that something happened.
Right. Three workmen on the track, Joseph Tiffining, who you saw, and there were two men with him, a man named Foley and a French-Canadian guy named Cossin. And of course, Mr. Chapman also returned home. He wasn't there. He didn't witness it. He got home and found his family missing and his house ramshackled there. Yeah. And of course, Joseph Dunn, the retired deputy sheriff, who we were discussing earlier, came up to investigate immediately after when he heard about the original press clippings. Now, the original press story was ridiculous. If I can find it here.
Also, is that she was an indigenous there from Canada. She knew her animals. She was around animals. She knew the difference between bear and moose and elk.
Well, like all other First Nations since 1929, she knew what a Sasquatch was and what the word meant.
Sure.
Yeah. But here, and this was the Vancouver province, October 25th, 1941. 3 canoes of Indians arrived terror-stricken on the Harrison Hot Springs after a flight from Port Douglas at the head of the lake. Are prepared to swear to that. Right.
Oh.
And that's all about that incident that happened at the same time. Yeah.
Oh, Temagami Island is in North Ontario. Thanks, Graz. Yeah. So maybe it was Old Yellow Top, but Old Yellow Top was getting pretty old because he'd been kicking around Ontario for about 80 or 90 years. People have been reporting Old Yellow Top.
Yeah.
It started in the late 1940s, and the last recorded sighting that I'm aware of Old Yellow Top was 1970. And the loggers in the bus said he looked like he had seen better days. So.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
And I like the colors, the different colors, like Chapman and everything, picked a very odd color like teak or something. It reminds you of bears, don't it? Because black bears literally come in every color under the sun. They're not necessarily black. And I think that they get reports of Sasquatch which are of different colors instead just your basic black model, and the skin colorations and everything.
Right. Grizzlies too. They come in a lot lighter shades of brown.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Even what they call the spirit bears, with our really lighter color, although a little bit rarer. are still there. I was gonna say that earlier I was talking to Thomas about how her encounter, she stated that she ran down to the water first and then towards or through the cemetery. And I was using the frame where the newer photo here, where the cemetery is. And I was telling him I didn't get why did she run up to the cemetery? And he's like, well, the cemetery wasn't there at the
Yeah.
time.
No,
So
in 1941, the original cemetery was basically done where your red line is.
yeah.
Okay.
So now it makes sense.
Yeah, it was moved a little further uphill because the 1948 flood had disinterred half the bodies and they all went floating downstream. It was a real mess. And the Chapman house is not where the star is. It's at the south end of those two trees that you see to the left of the
Okay.
star. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to the left of that line. That's where the original house was. Now, the dike was raised after the road that you see there along the riverbank. That's actually the dike, which was constructed after the 48 flood. Because this whole property was about 5 feet underwater. That was a horrible flood in 1948. Yeah.
Gotcha. So things change. Things
Yeah.
definitely change.
And of course, the Lougheed Highway was not there. Highway 7 was not there in 1941, but the railway was. As a matter of fact, that's how John Green and Randy Henning got there. They went down along the rail. They followed the old dirt road to Ruby Creek itself, and the property is actually a half a mile beyond Ruby Creek. It's not right on Ruby Creek.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And they had to go through the reserve and all the little side roads there to find the property. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. It's very interesting. Mostly, I mean, the pictures that you shown, you went to the actual fence line that Tifting was at, and Renee, is that still there, or is all that gone?
Oh yeah, it's pretty rusty, but the fence is there. I don't know if it's the same strands of barbed wire that were there in 41, but it's basically still there. Yeah. As a matter of fact, that picture of Renee, you can tell the highway's not there because the trees are right up to the other side of the tracks. They're a lot further back, and there's a big roadway there on the other side of those tracks. It's called Lougheed Highway. Yeah.
Yeah, as we were talking about earlier, that barbed wire fence there, that barbed wire is 4 feet high that Renee is balancing on. And this critter just stepped over it like it was a milk carton or something and just trucked on up the mountainside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, and we know that, he stated he heard that creature making that sound. And there's also a lot of people like on Reddit and other blog sites that were trying to say, if I can sum up, they were trying to say was how does she know she couldn't duplicate that sound again, or the way she stated it, that it had made a god-awful sound, one that you couldn't duplicate or replicate or something like that. Let me see if I can. Here it is. She said it made an awful funny noise, is what she said.
Yeah.
And asked her if she could imitate the noise, but her husband, who did so, saying that he had heard it all night, twice during the week after the incident. And proceeded to utter exactly the same strange gurgling whistle that the men in California who said they had heard a Bigfoot call had given us. What was he referring to there? The Sierra sounds? Or that would have been way after. That would have been way after. So what California?
I don't know. Back in the 40s, what kind of recording devices did they have?
And
right.
George Chapman died in 1961, so that was before the Sierra sounds and all those recordings.
Long before.
Yeah, so long before.
So either he knows of something else and had heard sounds, but I found that interesting because I didn't know what he was referring to.
That's an excellent point, Nikki.
didn't know. I was like, oh, that can't be Sierra Sounds because that didn't happen yet. Had given us the Bigfoot call had given us.
Yeah, George
Unless it was
Chapman never
referring
ever.
to
Yeah.
bell tower,
Mhm.
the bell tower thing.
And that
You know,
was also after George Chapman's death.
Yes.
Was it?
Yeah.
What year was that?
66.
Ah. See,
George
so that was
Chapman and Jenny Chapman died on the river in 1961.
61. Okay.
Yeah.
So dang, I
Or
don't know.
it actually may have been 1960 because his book came out. Sanderson's book came out in 61, and it was only 2 weeks after Sanderson talked to them that they died in the boating accident. Roughly 2 weeks. Yeah.
Anybody out there have any ideas on what they were referring to? What sounds?
Wishful thinking, I think.
Probably. It also says that this sound I cannot reproduce in print. But I can assure you that it is unlike anything I have ever heard given by man or beast anywhere in the world.
Well, I can tell you what John Green told me. I mean, he interviewed George Chapman, okay, in the late 50s. And George tried to do the sound for him. And he said it was a weird gurgling whistle type thing. Nothing like any of the recordings that I ever heard, he said. So,
wow.
That's what the late John Green told me. So, yeah.
Well, gurgle, gurgle. Sasquatch makes a gurgle.
Yeah. They can't even say for 100% sure what was making the sounds because they never saw it again. Something just kept coming back around the house in the early hours of the morning. Yeah. So
now when the Chapmans moved out because of this whistling, gurgling, listerine type noise, when they moved out, one of her relatives took over the place for a week or two, did they not? Then they too gave up the ghost, pardon my expression, and got out of there.
Well, yeah, other Chapman relatives continued to use the house, but they abandoned it because of the flood.
Right, so it had nothing to do with the critter gargling. It was
the house
excuse. Yeah.
Yeah, the flood just made it unusable. So that property was 4 feet underwater in 1948. Yeah,
along with most of Chilliwack and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what caused the house to be abandoned, was the flood of 48. Yeah.
Was there anything in the way of files or anything for this Sheriff Dunn that his family knew about? Any little, like Renee's stuff is with his sons.
I got a letter here from Joseph Dunn's surviving family to John Green, basically talking about what his father had collected, which was basically a few notes he made and this casting from the Ruby Creek site, because Joseph Dunn died in 1949.
Yeah.
Dear Mr. Green, I'm left of the Bellingham Herald, called my brother, and I am today to show us your letter pertaining to the Sasquatches. My sister Doris Dunn is over in Frames Tracking School at the present time, but perhaps I can be of some help, as my father told me quite a bit about the information he had. My father went up to Hope, BC, after seeing a news article in the Bellingham Herald on October 1st, 1941, telling about this strange sighting. Dad took photographs, so apparently he took pictures of the tracks, which have never been made clear, and made a tracing of a footprint and a casting of a footprint, which he took of it at the time. I have seen the photographs also of the tracing. A while back, when we were looking through my dad's room, we could not, and nor have we been able to find the pictures he took of the tracks of the house. As you probably realize, a person can accurately a great many things in a period of years, so it will be a bit of a job to sort them all out. Remember, this letter was written in the late 1950s to Green, well after the incident happened. I'll give you my sister's address in case you would like to correspond with her on the matter. And all this. This is a letter written to John Green at the time. Yeah. Yeah, by the Dunn family. No, as far as I know and what John told me, the casting was lost. All they have basically is memories of their father's interest in the subject. But whatever he collected and stuff has been lost in time because none of the photos of the Ruby Creek prints have turned up.
And
as far as I know, yeah.
That's a shame.
Dunn, Sheriff Dunn, had complete interest in the subject prior. He was interested in all of the Bigfoot stuff.
Retired Joseph Dunn. He was in his 60s when this happened. Yeah. Yeah, he was retired. And we don't even, he was interested in the subject, and we don't know why he was interested in the subject because no one knows that much about Joseph Dunn.
Right.
Or how he got interested in the first place. Yeah.
Let's see. What does it say? Here it says apparently Joseph, it says Sheriff Dunn was already interested in the subject through experiences of his own. And at his home, I found a report written by him generally confirming what I had learned myself and was able to copy a tracing of a footprint. Which is that footprint?
Now, unlike John Green's black and white pictures, there's a few colored pictures taken by Rene a few years after 1957. And you can see how its area's grown up around the house and all the there.
Yeah,
Is that
Nikki
the same
has that
photo?
one up on the screen now.
Oh,
Same
that's
photo.
the same one, but this
Same
one is
one.
black and white. It's just the
Yeah.
coloring is different.
Oh, it's color, yeah. And that one.
That one I don't
Who
know.
the man is in the picture, I don't know. Someone who was accompanying Rene at the time.
Where did I do with those other pictures? Oh. Anybody interested in reading the trail of the Sasquatch, just send me an email at harrymanhoaxes@gmail.com, and I can send you a copy of those because I wanted to read them. So I made them so that I could read them better. It will come in two different ways. Oops, like that.
Yep.
Landscape and that way, because it was too small for me to read.
The other interesting thing about the Ruby Creek incident is that the Chapmans are well known among the indigenous people along the river, and they were respected, and they weren't bullshit artists. When you got some information from them, you can pretty well say that it's good stuff.
Yeah. Do you remember I interviewed a man who had a sighting in 1973 on the highway named Ralph Bob and his wife. And he told me while I was interviewing him that he was a distant relative of the Chapmans as well. So,
they're big. They're spread out, There's quite a few of them.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did copy and paste them, Grass.
Yeah, that's Green's photograph from 1957, superimposed on the photograph I took of the site in 2011 to show you exactly where the house was in relation to those two trees. Yeah.
Yep. It's really cool. I think that it's pretty cool. Okay, so this is southwest of Sasquatch Provincial Park? Is that
Southeast of
Southeast.
southeast of there?
Hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to okay. So possibility that I may be coming next year. We're going to try to have this Sasquatch shindig at Harrison Hot Springs next year. And I might fly to Calgary and come in with the Howler across Canada or however that far that is. I haven't.
That's a long car trip there. Nikki.
It's about a 9-hour drive if you do it in one haul.
No, I'm gonna go a couple days ahead so we can stop. I want to.
I would advise it. My son does it from Calgary in 9 hours, not me. I want to
Nikki, I'll
stop
tell you
halfway over.
Tell you what, Nikki, you come up here. I know the people who own the property. We'll arrange a date. And if you want to see the Chapman site, I will take you right to it. I'll also take you to where Jacko was allegedly captured in 1884. Okay?
It's the deal. I'm going to be taking time off to go do that. I'm in this place where I have to get my my new card, my pass card. But right now, all my stuff is already getting a passport because I'm also for something else, an official passport. I'll tell you guys behind stage because I'm not ready to make this all public. But I have to wait. So hopefully I have enough time to get my card to go to Canada. That's my only fear. I think I should still have enough time if what's going on with me all pans out. But yes, I want to go. I really want to go. Michael extended me an invitation and it's almost too good. So, it'll be my one opportunity to do a little travel there in Canada. And I'm pretty excited about it. And I want to make that happen. So, but we're going to do this Sasquatch shindig thing again in 2024. It looks like we're going to have to aim for around the first 2 weeks of July sometime.
Okay.
And
just keep in mind, the first week of July is known as Canada Day, and every campground within 1,000-mile radius will be full.
Yeah. So that might be a good opportunity to do it on that second week after that's over.
Yeah.
But I'll still go on the first and maybe, spend time doing a little traveling with Michael in Canada. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope it all pans out good. We're talking about it now because time has been flying by. Same thing happened last year for our first shindig. Before you knew it, it was time to do it.
Yeah.
So you have to plan early for these things. Start saving that money up, of course. And
we'll take you out into the hills and mountains around the area in the side-by-side. So you can check out the scenery.
That'll be awesome. Really. No grasshopper. I don't see anything you posted. Oh, let me look on this other one. I still don't see anything you posted. Just you have something to send it to me through Messenger and I'll put it up. So anyway, that was a great discussion there about the Ruby Creek. Does anybody in the chat have any questions for Thomas or Gerry or me or anything? What's going on?
It's a classic tale. It's one of our classic tales. It's right up there with, the Albert Osman kidnapping and the Jacko capture and Ape Canyon and all the other classic tales. Oh, I guess the PG film was a classic tale now too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Sasquatch classics, yeah.
Okay, so he wants me
and
to...
probably none of them are true except for the Ruby Creek incident. Be sure you niche that away somewhere in the back of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What am I posting? Oh my God, that was a huge thing.
You might say the Ruby Creek Chapman incident was the first one that was actually really followed up on.
Yes.
To any
lots of people following. Yeah.
Ape Canyon was followed up on by rangers and deputy sheriffs.
It won't.
Yeah, but Ruby Creek is really the first one that was followed up on at the time, and then followed up again about 10 years later, or 8, 9 years later, by the John Green and Rennie DeHinden.
Yeah.
And of course, Ivan T. Sanderson. Yeah.
What the heck? That's a big, long link there, buddy.
Woo!
What are you talking about?
Let's see what he made me put a link for.
Oh,
Sasquatch.
good Lord. What is that?
I don't know. He's getting me in trouble. For Sasquatch Park encounter off of Thomas Steenburg's your YouTube channel, I guess.
Oh, by the way, my website, the Facebook page is still going. The YouTube is still going, but my blog site has gone haywire, and we're trying to fix it right now.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to post it on here. That was Grasshopper's encounter. Oh, I get it. I get what.
Oh, okay. That was 2017 at the gates of Sasquatch Park. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why it did it twice like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, it did. Cool. Check it out. I'll check it out later.
Mm-hmm.
You
could probably still read it. It's probably still up there, but we're having problems with that blog site now, and we're trying to fix it. So, yeah.
Oh. Oh, something's always going haywire.
Robert had a good question. There is the drama in the Bigfoot world now more or less than back in the 70s and 80s. Definitely more.
Definitely more.
More.
Yeah.
It's enough to make you throw up your hands and quit the whole thing.
Hoaxing.
I had a nickel for every time somebody says that.
Yeah. Hoaxing and just general BS has reached epidemic proportions. Yeah.
What else do we have here? Let me see. Do I have anything else? I just want to know what kind of pipe tobacco Thomas likes.
My favorite is Cherry Cavendish, but I'm not picky.
At that price, you better not be.
I know. I gotta bring him some because it's a lot cheaper here in the States.
$80 a pouch.
Oh, please do. Yeah. I mean, you can still get it pretty good in the United States. In Canada, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, I'm in the wrong place. Let me go over here. So, great conversation. Oops, there we go. It's show me time.
Me what you got. Jim, you heard them said, show me what you got.
So, it's kind of been a dry kind of week out there in social media for people posting their stuff. And I think a lot of that has to do with us actually talking about their stuff. They're a little bit quicker to not put their names on anything. And this one as well. This one didn't have a whole lot with it other than he's just saying that face in the middle there is something, right? And not a whole lot of information involved with this one at all, but it's clearly pareidolia. It's just,
I don't see anything. It's just
There's nothing there, but everybody, your brain, that's the way your brain works. It looks at something and it wants to make sense and it makes faces.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
let me just say this.
You keep looking at that until you do find something.
Right.
Let me just say this. As evidence, this image is useless, even if it was a Sasquatch.
What?
As evidence, this image is useless, even if it was a Sasquatch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like any arrow and circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nothing. You want to take pictures like this and assume that shadows and pictures like this of grass and stumps and all. Take as many as you want. I'm not telling you to not take those pictures, but remember the moment you post them publicly, you are opening yourself to that criticism. Okay. Because that's what social media is about. It's about sharing what you're putting out. So I find it hard that when people post their stuff and then they don't want you to say nothing bad about it, or they don't want you to condemn the photo or to ask even a simple question. Where's the picture before it and after it? If it's a video, why aren't you showing the video? Why are you screen grabbing, getting up close to the picture and zooming in and changing colors and outlining? And if you have a decent photo, you shouldn't have to do any of that, right?
Any photograph or image where the subject is open to interpretation, it is rendered useless. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much. Keep it in your back pocket. Here's some footprints that came out. I believe this was, what was the name? Because I knew I wouldn't be able to read it off of there. Tony Tellery says that he found these out in New York State. And to me, it kind of looks like bear, but I don't know.
How many toes are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Well, that 6th one may be just a shadow there. I think it's 5. Looks like a bear track to me, but I don't know. I take it there was more than one.
We don't know.
Yeah, okay.
We don't know. Yeah, that's the one thing when you go and you post something like this, if you don't give the backstory, you leave it up to us just assuming that you didn't have any backstory. Yeah. You came across some bear tracks, you took the picture, and you're leaving it up to us to make that interpretation for you. Mm-hmm. Are you claiming it's a Bigfoot print? You're posting it in a Bigfoot site. That's what we're going to assume, you know? Yeah.
He may even really believe it is, but it looks like a bear paw to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it does look like a bear to me too. And I think if you look, you can't tell from this photo, but if you go to the original and look at it, I can kind of see the tips of where maybe a claw could have been, but I don't know. It's just, I put this up here just for the criticism, just to show that without the backstory and knowing what was going on, it's open. We don't know what that is, and it's just some mud, and it could have been your 4 fingers going like that. I don't know. We don't know. Tell us where you were, when it happened. Were there more than one? Was it a trackway? Do you have pictures of you approaching or video, or all that stuff makes a difference if you care, if you care about
well, that's it. You got to care first, don't you? That's the problem.
Yeah.
I think half of those people don't care. They just want their 5 minutes of fame. And
question: is this a photograph taken by a researcher, or is it just someone who came across something strange and they thought it might be something?
Right. We don't know. I don't know this person. Okay. And I left the name on there because I'm not trying to hide this photo or anything. It's out there. You put it out there on social media and it just has a mind of its own. You'll probably start seeing this photo in several different groups, because that's what happens. I'm a member of 25, 30 groups, and you see the same stuff in all the groups. So it's going to make its way around. But what's going to happen too is somebody's going to take that and then change the colors and have its own.
And what do you foresee the future bringing when AI kicks in and that stuff starts turning up?
It is 100% kicking in, and things are getting better and better.
Absolutely. So, I recall saying at one time in 2025, that'll be about it. It'll be time to shut down any kind of research on the internet for Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I honestly believe that. I believe we've only got about 2 years maximum, and then you won't be able to believe anything you see or anything you hear.
Okay, I'm gonna say something. I think the next 10 years, for my personal interest in this subject, is vital, and I'll tell you why. The I-5 in Washington State just started building new wildlife crossings for the highway, similar to what Canada's had.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oklahoma. And unlike Canada, they have cameras on these 24/7, 365. The next 10 years goes by and they get video evidence of every large animal we know is there, and they don't get an image of a Sasquatch. That will convince me that the Sasquatch is myth and mythology, and if it did exist, it no longer does.
Not that we'll be alive to witness it, probably.
Yeah. But that's the key. I mean, these new wildlife crossings they've built, it always wondered how in the hell, Sasquatch sightings between I-5 and the West Coast, and of course on the east side of the I-5 in the mountains there, nothing can get to the coast from the central Washington without crossing I-5. And I don't know about you, but I-5 is a really good. I've gone down that thing at 3:00 in the morning. There's always cars on it.
Yeah.
So I always wondered, how does wildlife get across? Well, they obviously have tried to solve this problem just north of Vancouver, and they're building new wildlife access tunnels underneath the highway. And unlike Canada in the parks, their cameras are 24/7, 365 days. One of the criticisms I had in Canada is we haven't got anything, but the cameras are always just put out there for a week here, a week there, moved another, do another. But since the 1990s, they've got images of everything we know, except guess what? Okay.
Yeah,
these cameras are going to be there all the time. And if they get enough time goes by, they get photographs of everything we know is there, and they don't get a Sasquatch, then my belief in the existence of Sasquatch will go from 90% probably down to non-existence. Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you allow for the variable? Because you're just saying Canadian cameras are not on all the time. Yet we have recorded documents of every animal probably that exists in North America in one form or another on those cameras.
Which is why my belief is down around 90%, not 100. Yeah. Yeah.
So even if they're on for, what makes you think that even if they're on for 24/7, that you'll do any better?
Well, if the Sasquatch exists, hopefully they'll get images of one. If it doesn't exist, they will get nothing. And that's what I'm looking forward to finding out.
Mickey,
I don't want to look forward.
See, the Canadian.
I'm letting you go. I'm not even going to ring the bell on you guys here.
In the Canadian one, they even got images of some weird looking people, but they don't have any images of a Sasquatch, but they got everything else you can think of that exists in the Rocky Mountains.
It'll show up on one of these Facebook pages any day now.
Mm-hmm.
How about this one?
Whoa.
That's from the movie Sasquatch from the early 90s. Where'd you get that one, Nikki?
I don't know. I find a lot of stuff. Next is these tracks. Did I print this one out? I knew I wasn't going to be able to read it. I have to get close to the screen. This comes from Joseph and Annie, and they're book authors, and I guess they call this the Mighty Mo pictures, prints. And what does it say? God, I cannot read it. I thought I would be able to. We lined up both castings like he was walking. And at the end of the picture, you can see a researcher's boot on the box. These were, oh my God, witnesses to the whole event when it took place. It's hard to show all of the data on the events when it's being published on pictures in different sites, but we are trying. So this is new. This is fairly new, and they just started out putting out these track photos. I find those two photos kind of weird because they seem, if they're one photo and the one print and the next print, they kind of look like the same angle of, so it didn't make sense to me. I thought it was the same one that they just had recasted, you know, when you make duplicates.
Did they say where this happened?
Alrighty. No, they don't. It says we're trying to do the best we can to show the public what really took place. If the public wants to see more about the castings, go to our home site. We love you. God bless Joseph and Annie. And I think you'd have to go to book authors Joseph and Annie, and you'll find more information about what those tracks are. I wonder if I can get to there fast enough. Let me see if I can do this.
Kind of vague, aren't they?
Joseph and Annie. Let's go to their site real quick and see what's going on there. So this says, ooh, he looks like a mountain man. Joseph and Annie living daily with Bigfoot. Oh my gosh. Okay,
Living
yeah,
daily.
I gotta link you to this so that you can see what I'm looking at here. Hold on. Nope, it didn't go live. Screen share. There we go. Okay, so here's their site. And so Joseph and Annie living daily with Bigfoot.
Living daily with Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's what the top says right there. So due to Mighty Mo being such a large event and people wanting to know more about the event, we're posting on our home site all the data, 12 different places. Again, they said, and we have 9 different witnesses to the whole event as it took place. This picture shows the casting of a 24-inch long print. God bless. There's those toes look weird to me, but I don't know.
This is not going to turn into another Sylvania, is it?
God. Yeah, we got another.
In this picture, you can see his tracks as he's coming into the sanctuary. There were high winds the next night before, which had blown most of the tracks in, but you can see some of the witness tracks along beside it. This was a very difficult event to get data from. So each time they find something, they're calling it an event because it was hyper cold, 20 below zero, and I still don't know where they're from. No.
I'm sorry, I should be more believing and open to things, but when I look at something like that, all I can think of is, Leon, where are you? Check out your moose prints. You know, uncover those prints and show what really made them.
So here's their picture of their Mo, their big guy.
Just the same people?
Yeah, same people. Supersized Bigfoot. I believe that the massive Bigfoot was caught in the picture, and people must realize how dangerous it can be if you're not experienced.
Okay, it sounds like we got another Randy Brisson on our hands here. Yeah.
So that is what they're saying is a Bigfoot back in there looking.
I don't see any.
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh. That is not face. That is not even close to being a face there. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, it looks like an alien. Looks like an alien.
Again, the same people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Zoom in on that one.
What's that? A head without a body?
Something. I don't know what that is, but
Randy Brisson. Yeah.
Looks more like an owl and sitting in the grass or something.
Yeah.
That looks like a witch's face. This
God.
is a big boy.
They realized no one would see anything, so they had to draw a line around it.
Well, of course.
Yeah. So.
Oh, it's in the tree now. Great. Okay.
Okay, enough of this.
When do they ask
Oh,
people
look,
to
see,
send
I
money
can see kind of
money to them?
Yeah, so that was a quick one. There we go.
Okay, this is Show Us What You Got. Here's a report locally right here at Norris Creek last August. You can see this footprint right there.
Oh, can I switch spots? Can I switch you? No, it won't let me. Oh, I know why. Hold on. Shit. I don't know. It's not working. Whoa.
Yeah.
It won't go.
You can also see the guy's boot prints all around it, so it's not that big.
There we go. It kept snapping back.
It's not that big. There's only 4 toes. Okay.
Oh, crazy.
He said he only took the one picture, but he said there was like 20 tracks around, and for some reason they seem to be walking along the same path as most people do. Well, I think there's a good reason for that. I think that's one of those sandals or moccasins that have toes attached to it. This last August, and people go down to this area to go swimming and stuff. At least they used to before the road was blocked off. And later on, he took this picture down the tracks that he thought might be associated with it, and the figure was obscured by the smoke, which I think is probably a picture of 2 people walking along the tracks. But it's not a hoax because he doesn't know. He's just, in my opinion, it's just a case of mistaken identity. Yeah. And the track was one of those. You see these little sandals. They're kind of like flip flops and moccasins with it has sort of toes on it.
They're really popular. All of the hiking.
They are. Yeah.
They're all starting to use those.
Because barefoot practices are coming back again now. Mm-hmm. Barefoot sports and hiking and what have you.
Yeah. Oh, how did you take my spot up there, Thomas?
Yeah, and that was sorry, Nikki. I dethroned you.
King of the castle.
Yeah, but those tracks and pictures were from August 27th of this year. So that's the latest one I've been looking at.
Jeez. I only have a couple things in the news, and the first one being mythical creatures found at Legend of Bigfoot Bartell's Back Roads. So in Gaberville, California, an elusive creature known as Bigfoot has been spotted roaming the redwood forests of Humboldt County for decades. Few have seen it, but just around a hairpin corner of Highway 101, there's a very good chance you will see the creature at the Legend of Bigfoot store in Gaberville. It's just a roadside attraction that sneaks up on you on every corner, said General Manager Mike White. At first glance, Legend of Bigfoot is pretty much what you think, a store that sells Bigfoot stuff. On the weekend, we can see 2,000 to 3,000 people stop in. There's no doubt you'll find Bigfoot here, but White says you will also find some Bigfoot's other friends like Shrek and the Ogre, and giant dinosaur and big fat photogenic bears. All of them are sculptures made by chainsaw artists that are hiding all over the property. So take a trip on down to Bartell's Back Roads. And
this is in Northern California?
That is in the Redwood Forest. Yeah. Where does it say the actual address?
Another California Bigfoot attraction. Cool.
Yeah, they're sprouting out all over the place. I mean, we have a new one here in Cloudcroft, New Mexico, that's going to be supposedly up by end of the year or beginning of the new year. That looks really interesting. Called Bigfoot Encounter there in Cloudcroft. I hope to go up there and see that pretty soon. And again, did the state warn visitors to Everhart Park that the Bigfoot-like creature might be there? This story goes on to say that there were warnings put up on trees there in the park, but as I went further into the story and looked up more, I found another story saying that Bigfoot in PA DCNR says it's not putting up warning signs at state parks. And we've had that before with the Forest Service, you know, ones that came out recently and were being put up in different trails and parks all over. But that was also originally, I believe that one was an April Fool's joke that kind of got carried away, and then people started printing those and putting them out all over the thing. But this one says, if you've spotted Bigfoot walking around Pennsylvania State Park near you, someone apparently has, going so far as to impersonate the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Nature Resources to get the word out. And that has been happening, but
See,
they deny.
one big problem we as researchers have to deal with is just getting worse as everything's reaching epidemic proportions. The attitude of the general public, to them, faking a Sasquatch incident to draw attention to themselves or to the community or whatever is no worse than faking a haunted house at Halloween. You know, and for us in research or serious researchers, that's causing headaches and problems.
It does.
But it does. As it's just getting worse.
Yeah. It will. It's going to get worse. It always seems to be. Yeah. But the important thing for me is that we talk about it. We don't hide the things that we don't want.
Right.
Just because they're a little bit ugly and nobody likes to talk about those bad things, that doesn't mean that they go away.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a researcher, maybe you don't put out all your stuff. You know, you don't have to put out anything. And more real researchers are pulling back away from the community and doing their own things with maybe an occasional video here and there, or just strictly going onto YouTube to, you know, as a holding place for their research. But as far as the social media and through doing podcasting or on any other social media, Facebooks and Instagrams and all those, they're stepping away. They're stepping away because there is a lot that goes on and people's feelings get hurt. And that's just
that has been going on for a while, Nikki. When I first started into this, I called them the silent researchers. And they are out there because I've talked to a couple of them who've been doing this for a dozen years or so, and they have no interest whatsoever. People say, if you're a researcher, why don't you share anything you find? Well, that's a subjective thing as far as I'm concerned. Who do you share it with? When do you share it and everything else? And do you have to share it? Some people say, yes, you do have to share it. Others would say, no, keep it to yourself. Whatever, you know. Wherever the clock is moving for you at the time.
Right.
And yes, there are those out there who don't want to be caught up in the rigmarole. They would rather just get up in the morning, go out into the woods, do their thing, come home at night, watch some TV with the family, and do it again the next day. Don't need to come and get on the computer and tell everybody how many miles you put in today looking for this or looking for that or something.
Right. It's true.
They're out there. They're out there.
They're out there. And yeah, you know, I'm selfish. I want to see all that stuff. I want to know what's going on. I'm nosy. There'll always be people to watch. Listen, there are thousands of channels out there now, all dedicated to Bigfoot. Everybody's got their own take, because if you have your own opinion about the subject and you don't like what people are saying, people are doing their own podcast and, you know, saying what they want to say and believe, and they're putting out their beliefs, and that's fine, because there's always going to be somebody who agrees with you. And
I get people who leave comments on after a show. You know, they leave a comment below, and I've had people say to you, no, I don't really agree with you, because we have experts who know that Sasquatch and Bigfoot exist. Look at Meldrum. And I think to myself, Meldrum, he's just an upper-class podiatrist. If you want to know something about feet, yes, go to Meldrum. If you want to know what a Sasquatch eats, I don't know who the heck you can go to for that one. or where they live or their mating habits or anything else. Yeah, Mildred can tell you all about their feet, the structure, their possible weight, their gait, and everything else. But that's where it ends with him. So if he's a Sasquatch effort, we're all going down the tube. But people believe that.
Yeah.
Mildred said so.
You can believe one way or the other. As a researcher, you're trying to find out the answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a true researcher, and I'm only expressing my opinion, of course, is someone who's willing to admit that in the end they could turn out to be wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
when you go where the evidence leads you,
yeah,
right or wrong.
I mean, you've heard me say this before, Gerry. We are supposed to be researchers trying to find an answer to a mystery. We are not religious fanatics pushing a faith. Yeah.
I hear you. I got that tattooed on my back. Yeah.
Oh, I thought yours said, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid." Anyway, yeah, you know, we all have our way of doing things, and it's all good. You know, I just I won't stand by though and not give my opinion on what I think about it, and that's, you know, why I have my channel. Is that I'm not trying to outdo anybody or anything, but I do feel that there are facts out there, and some people need to know what those red flags are. And if I can help you identify some of those, so be it. If not, then I don't. That's just the way it goes, for sure. So,
but I find the only thing that I find encouraging after all these years I've been in this, despite all the evidence that, you know, certain things in the past that we really thought were something turned out to be nothing, and all the hoaxing, everything going on, there's still enough happening that the possibility of this creature existing is still there, and that intrigues me. See, personally, I gave up caring if the general public believed in the existence of Sasquatch 20 years ago. I do this because I want to know. You know, and when I find out something, like you say, pass on what you have learned. I don't really go out of my way to pass it on, but if anyone asks me for something, I give it to them. I've never refused anybody, even people who are on the other side of the tracks that I do. I mean, I'm on the complete end of the tracks of a lot of people, but we still get along because in the end, one of us are right.
Somebody's got to be right.
Yeah, someone's got to be right. So that's the way I look at it. I mean,
for sure.
Like Ron Moorhead, we're good friends, but I couldn't be more opposite of Ron than you could be, you know, because I'm zoological and he's into more of the paranormal side of things. But when we were together, we had great debates. We still get along. We share opinions. We don't attack each other.
Right.
You know.
And that's what it's all about, though. If you can have decent conversations with people without getting all bent out of shape about it, you can always say, okay, I agree to not to disagree to just, you know, it's just the way it is. I don't hate you or you know, want to harm you for your opinion, because we all have those. And that's where it kind of gets carried away sometimes, is that people make this their whole life. And when you shatter any little part of that, it can get ugly, you know, for them.
People who don't accept the existence of the Sasquatch, well, fine. I mean, part of my job is finding evidence for its non-existence is just as important as finding evidence for its existence. Because we're trying to find an answer to a mystery.
Right.
And the answer just may be the whole thing's mythology and folklore. At this point, I don't personally believe that, but I'm willing to be convinced so. If the evidence eventually let me of that, right?
Right. And that's why, you know, I'm a skeptic of the evidence. I haven't seen anybody put out a whole lot of evidence that I can really get behind. But there are people that I trust that I put, you know, can get behind on their encounters. Now, if something happens and they come out and it was all a lie, I'll be really disappointed in that. But that's where I do put my faith in that they're not all fake encounters. They can't possibly all be mass hysteria type encounters going on all over the US. There's got to be some realization, some truth behind these encounters that are being told, even though to me they're all start to sound a little bit the same. That's what keeps me going, that there's something out there, because I've did my first real interview with a gal who had a sighting, and she was detailed. She told me everything that was happening and how it looked and how she felt and the impact it had on her life. And that makes me believe, that there's something out there and we don't know what it is. But
see, that's something that Thomas does very well in his interviews. He will get the person, ask them a whole bunch of questions and details of it, the encounter, sighting, whatever it is. And then when all is said and done, he'll sit back and say, okay, in your own words, tell me the whole thing all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a way to make sure that this fellow isn't lying. Mm-hmm. If the details start changing all of a sudden in the second telling, you can find that person to be that trustworthy.
Yeah. And again, Gerry, you heard me say this before. There's only 3 possibilities when you're interviewing a witness. Only 3.
Mm-hmm.
1, they saw a Sasquatch. 2, they mistook something or somebody for a Sasquatch. Or 3, they're lying.
Yeah, and I think 90% of the people who submit a report, it's misidentification.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly don't think there are that many Sasquatch out there. Now, I heard on Squatch Talk, Pat saying something like 3,800 or something like that. And I said to him, I think you're being over generous on your head count, Pat, because I don't think there are that many. I think they were verge of, if they exist at all, they were on the verge of extinction 100 and 200 years ago. And I think now they're even closer to it. Mm-hmm. That's why a lot of people don't encounter them, because they're not there. It's just plain a simple fact. They're a very rare creature. They're not there. And I'm sure they have their own tricks to survival, what have you. But,
I always like to say, assuming that the creature does indeed exist, there's probably one Sasquatch for every 100 bears in any given area.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, any more than that, they'd be seen more often. Any fewer than that, it doesn't seem to be a viable breeding population.
I agree.
That's the point. That's it exactly.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. Yeah.
Right.
And so the point being, I am really, really leery about when somebody comes up with a bunch of footprints like that and says, living with Bigfoot daily. Come on. People go their entire lives and never have a sniff of an encounter. And these people are out there hobnobbing with Bigfoot every 2 to 3 days a week.
And can't get a clear picture.
The Hinden never saw a Sasquatch. Green never saw a Sasquatch. I don't think Peter Burns ever saw a Sasquatch. Bob Titmus, he says maybe he did. I know he saw lots of footprints. But I mean, these are guys, these are old school, man. And none of them even ever got a whiff of a Sasquatch. So you tell me, how come all of a sudden everybody and their dog knows a Sasquatch? Invite one home to dinner kind of thing. I just
have to go feed the Sasquatch. I'll be right back.
Yeah, sorry, gotta go feed the Sasquatch. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the way the world of Sasquatch is starting to look to me. That's the filter that I look through with this whole deal. Because honestly, earlier, Nikki, like I said, I like to throw my hands up. That has occurred to me more and more over the past 7 or 8 months, to just pack it in and say, this isn't we're taking you where you want to go, this kind of thing. But
Right.
you know, there's germs of evidence out there. There's persuasive stuff out there, so you can't just poo-poo the entire
Everything.
subject. I mean, it's still a mystery, right? You said so yourself. It's still a mystery. Either you're in or you're out.
Yeah. And
I say
sometimes you
this-
want way out.
I say this to myself. Either you're in, either you're out. Either way, quit whining about it.
Right, right.
And that's
I
it.
think I got excitement started when I went to Washington and I was out there with like-minded people and got to trek around, and I realized that I like being out there. I liked it. It was fun. It wasn't work. It was like invigorating. It really got me going, and that's what I wanted to continue. Of course, now we're in winter and it's like snowing up there, so I'm not going up there. But it kind of lit a fire that I want to start doing that. And if it means maybe I don't have a show every Sunday because I'm going to be on the mountain, then so be it. I will try to bring people along because I know how many people can't do that. I was one of them for a while. Can't get out into the woods anymore. Can't do any trekking or looking at things, and they want to see that. So I'll try to do that. We'll see what the new year brings. And now that I've scoped out some areas, I'm very comfortable with it. I've got people lined up who want to go out with me. Things are moving they're moving along. So there's some great adventures to be had in the upcoming year. I'm looking forward to doing all that.
Yeah.
And
I never really got your opinion when we were in Washington in the Mount St. Helens region last summer. What did you think when you saw that possible track? That was your first time ever seeing the track, wasn't it?
I was like, that's way bigger than I ever thought.
Yeah.
Because, from behind the computer, you're looking at something that you just can't fathom the rest of a body. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You just see it. But when you're there and it's something in front of you and you know what you think you're looking at, because it has toes and it has a heel and it has a shape, and you start putting the rest of the body to that foot, it's real. It becomes more real that like, something's out here, it's and it's not just the bear. So it was impressive. It was more than I didn't think we would find anything, honestly, that could even be put on the books. But that first track, the one that Dakota found, and one that Jen found later,
Mm-hmm.
they were impressive. There was something that couldn't be explained. And even one the night before we left, there was one that I could see all 5 toe prints, and it wasn't round. It was long and smaller. And there were no kids walking around barefoot out there for sure. So it just makes you wonder what's going on. But I don't know. It just adds to the mystery and now I want to find out more about that mystery. So we're going to keep at it and do my own little investigations, and maybe I can get up to Canada for a couple of weeks, and it'll be awesome to see some of these historic sites that helped form, Bigfoot community in whole. These will always be with us.
Well, when you come up to BC, Nikki, we'll spend a day, and I'll take you to where the Chapman site was. I'll take you to where Jock was actually captured. I'll even take you to where the possibility I may have saw one the one time in all the years I've been in this. That was in 2004. I still won't say it was a Sasquatch because the facts are it was too far away to identify. So,
yeah. We'll take that off. I'm not going to end with that last little thing there. But, yeah, that was a good discussion, guys. Thank you so much for coming and joining me today and talking a little Squatch. Talking about a little Squatch. Let me see. Anybody have any last questions out there? What's going on with you, Gerry? What's you got any new interviews coming up?
Well, I just talked to the boys the other night. I brought it up to field it to see if we're going to do a Christmas show on the Bukwas Crew this year.
Oh, nice.
If not, maybe Monkey will do one.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know Monkey is, well, let's leave it there. But in January, high hopes. I know I said it last year and it didn't come out, but in January, the Bukwas Crew is going to be going live. We're going to be doing live shows instead of the recorded ones.
Oh, nice.
And there are different reasons for that. And besides, yeah, sounds like fun. It sounds like a fun time.
That's great.
Oh, and I think Julie will be trying to get a hold of you, Nikki, because you were supposed to be our last guest on the Shoulders of Giant before she had to go into the hospital for her operation, and that got postponed because of that. So, yeah,
we've had a run of bad luck with the show, with that interview, internet issues, and then her surgery. And then I told her not to worry about it. I'll be here whenever you guys are ready to go. I'll be ready. So that's coming up. I'm going to be interviewed by Thomas and Julie here pretty soon. And I've got another interview coming up at the beginning of the year. And another thing coming up that I was asked to participate in, but I can't say. So I'm just going to leave you with cliffhangers, cliffhangers. Things are coming up.
Show us what you got.
I'm going to show you. No. So anyway, it's going to be good. And I think I covered it all, but next week is going to be another gooder. You guys got to be here for next week because I've got some more guests lined up and somebody I've never had on before, and it's going to be piss people off probably. It'll probably get some people riled up, but hopefully Thomas over here on this side, he'll join me for sure. So, and you are welcome too, Gerry, if you'd like to join. I'll talk to you after about it because I don't like to tell anybody about my next show until closer to Friday. We'll put that promo out for next week.
Well, thanks for having this, Nikki. It was fun tonight. It was a fun talk.
Yeah.
And for all those out there, just quickly, you want to find out more about the Ruby Creek incident, read anything by John Green. He covered it quite extensively. Of course, Ivan T. Sanderson's 1961 book. You can read about it there. That's probably the best account of it. And, of course, Rennie wrote about it, or Hunter Andehin wrote about it in his 73 book as well. So it's been quite covered extensively. It always amazes me how different all three accounts are a little bit from each other. Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
But thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Please be sure to hit that like button before you leave. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this show on your social media. And leave me a comment. Tell me if you like the show. Tell me how much you like Thomas and Gerry. And we'll see you guys in the next chat.